man.
Oh, cool.
Dan Kronz from Renewed Heights. Welcome to the Secured Out podcast, man. I'm excited to dig into this. As a free fall guy, as somebody that ultimately dreamt of spending his entire time on a free fall team, I can tell you skydiving is something that is near and dear to my heart. And your web page summarizes it perfectly. You have that quote by Leonardo da Vinci. Once you have been in the sky, and as I like to say it, you experience the ability to be a flying meat missile. There's not much you can do on Earth that will make you feel like you've done something great. It's always those moments of doing a high lift track, of connecting with a friend in free fall and locking in, and you're just like, holy shit, like this is the greatest thing on Earth.
Yeah.
And we kind of miss those moments of awe when and coming across you. Thank goodness we have a mutual friend who put us in contact. This is that therapeutic moment of understanding just how big the world is and being able to experience something as amazing as free fall. You guys are right. It's something that can change your life for the positive. So today, Dan, I want to dig into your nonprofit and dig into your journey, my man.
Cool. Well, first, thank you for having me. Please let me know if there's any like video or audio issues, and I'll see if I can correct that. But yeah. So I think maybe sharing a little bit about my journey here, and feel free to interrupt or ask questions. What led to where I am now? It was a week away, or I was a week post graduating from Wharton School of Business with my MBA. I was still active duty, and right after that, I ended up at Laurel Ridge Inpatient Treatment Facility. Prior to being there,
no way. We gotta pause right there.
Yeah,
I am also an alumni of Laurel Ridge Treatment Center, my man. Mission 100. So as we say, tribe, baby, tribe.
Yes,
That place saves lives, and it will change you for the better. So I just wanted to just hit that right off the bat and just say, yes, we are together. We're a part of an amazing tribe, and yeah, dude, please continue on.
Well, dude, I would rather, because like afterwards, I'm gonna have to email you. You know how like sometimes we'd go to like art class. I really got into that, and I got a huge rock. They let me bring back in and put a seventh group, the regimental crest on there. And I got some pictures I can send you. But it was kind of like I knew other seventh group guys were there. There were seventh group guys when I was there, and I just needed to kind of put my stake in the ground. And I also appreciate you being like, yo, dude, I was there too. Cause, I've listened to your podcast, and your vulnerability is what allows others to be vulnerable. And I've noticed that with what I'm doing, just, hey man, here's where I'm sucking. Here are the areas that I'm struggling with. And it's that paradox of security allows vulnerability, but you need vulnerability to feel secure. And so like, it's like, who's going to start?
Yeah, man.
But so the day I showed up to Laurel Ridge was June 11th. And so I'm now just over 2 years sober. I'm an addict, and I, staying strong in that. The accountability is huge. And so shortly after my time at Laurel Ridge, I started doing intensive outpatient with my therapist, who I'm working with now. Ended up at Star. I know you're familiar with Star. For anybody who's not, the quick and down and dirty, it's a VA facility. They helped mainly special operations with TBIs. And my last deployment was with ODA 7223. We were in Hellman. And essentially we were doing missions every like 96 hours. We were just ripping really hard. A lot of dudes got Purple Hearts. It was a pretty intense deployment. Needless to say, the TBIs I had received had, helped my life dismantle. And so the day I showed up to business school, to rewind a little bit, a good buddy of mine was formerly on my team, a guy by the name of Andy Marcasano, died by suicide, and was my fourth friend to do so that I had deployed with and been in combat with. And shortly after Andy, I had two more friends that I served with. And so, we're on this very like tipping point in my life, and the war in Afghanistan ends in 2021, which just like ripped my heart out. And during my time at business school, well, between the time we pulled out and when I med boarded out of the military, I had 4 surgeries and 4 epidurals on top of like untreated, undiagnosed PTSD and TBI. So during that time, multiple friends dying by suicide, pregnant wife at the time. We get divorced, and our second born almost dies in birth. He was first 3 days of life. He had to be put on ice and kept at a core body temperature of 92 degrees. I'm going through midterms. I get divorced April 22, graduate May 22. My life's erupting, and thankfully I had the right people in the right places, to include my warrant, who came down to Philadelphia and was like, yo, bro, you need to go to inpatient. And I was like, I got this. And I bought an RV, took my 2 kids down to Florida. And my firstborn's godfather is a E8 in 7th group, team sergeant. I think he just finished his team time. And he's like, Dan, you're a great dad, but I've never seen you like this. You need to go to inpatient, bro. And so dropped the kids back off with their mom, did inpatient, did STAR, and then went to Fort Belvoir to do my med board. And so, during that time, I've had a lot of healing, a lot of growth, and I still have a lot of work to do. But last summer, after having my kids, I got my A license. And now I just need to submit my paperwork. I have my C license. I'm also an FAA senior rigger that I got certified by Army Ignited. So anybody who doesn't know about Army Ignited, certifications, education for free. You don't owe anything back. Like it's amazing. And like, as you spoke about like what it's like to skydive. And I think like, my parents, my mom specifically, is like, oh, you're an adrenaline junkie. And it's like, dude, that it's not it at all. It's the opposite of that.
It's complete opposite. It's
yes,
Zen.
Yes.
It's complete Zen, man. There's a reason why the culture latches on to Point Break so much. And people don't understand it, dude. It's not about this like adrenaline rush. Like when you look at, dude, you can hate it, you can clown on it, but you juxtapose Johnny Utah and Bodie and that Zen appeal of like, fuck you, I'm going out to live. I'm going out there in the sky to live. That's the heart. I mean, in anybody that's been inpatient, and you can attest to it, in those moments where you're going through your trauma, you're going through everything and you're getting some answers, you're also dissecting your own life, and you're getting to the points where like, where were you the happiest? Where were you actually feeling like you were alive? And every time you're on that ramp with your friends and you're planning out your dive, and then you actually dive out and you're doing great, amazing things, and those brief seconds feel like a lifetime. And you can literally walk out of that bird on that last jump, and for the rest of your life, you're going to remember that last jump. I know I did. Like the last time I jumped with a team is still like vividly, and I can't remember how to get to my fucking house. I can't remember basic things, but I can tell you right now, the first time I was able to link up in the air with a teammate, I can tell you the first time how it felt to be a free fall JM. There is something different about flying in the sky. There's something different. That piece, when you see the sunrise in Arizona, is completely different than anything you'll experience. And you're right, man. There's something to this. And I can't believe that like nobody else has found that link and has been willing to be like, you know what, I'm going to start this nonprofit. Like, but before we dive into that, man, like there are so many things about your story that I want to pause and reflect on. We talk about loss and we talk about grief, but the individuals that you've lost and the people that within regiment that we've lost by suicide, they don't just get forgotten. They become added weights into our rucksacks. And I know in the specific incident of your friend, your teammate, Andy, that is somebody that was a legend in regiment. Absolutely. And when you serve, absolutely. These people that once you serve with them on a team, people on the outside world, people through podcasts, they only know about the heroics. They only know about the greatness that these people were. But the thing that's impactful is the human being. And when you realize that we're not bulletproof and we can break, that puts another kink and another crack in your own veneer, in your own outside facet that you show the world. That mask is now cracking. As you were going through Laurel Ridge, what were some of the things that you realized that you were dealing with? I know you mentioned briefly addiction. What were some things that you were dealing with before you were able to get help?
So I'd like to start with the first thing you talked about, like with Andy. For me, and I could be mistaken, it was something like 9 deployments. I mean, dude, he was like the toughest dude I knew. Just like, he really was, man. Like, he was awesome. He left my team to go to 3-5 to be a team sergeant. Like, savage, man. Great NCO. I still keep in touch with his mom, Kat. She's an amazing woman, and Andy's fond. Like, always trying to, promote that as well.
Yep.
So when I feel like for me, when someone like that does it, it almost gives you permission to. In a weird way, you're like, well, dude, he was tougher than me. Like, I don't know. I like found myself afterwards being like, oh, dang, like if I do this, what are the second and third order effects?
Yeah.
So like one of the things I reflected on that was like really hard to swallow was I have 2 kids. We saw one of them just run in here who's 3. Like the statistics on kids whose parents kill themselves is like disgusting. And so now that I'm not in that place, I'm having to live through that, like the bad narrative, the bad wolf. That's like, dude, you're such a piece of shit. You're such a piece of shit, dude. Oh, and it's like, so like we start believing it, and then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because we're just going to blow up whatever's in our life, whatever's good. It's just like, bet, dude, I will cut off my nose to spite my face. And it's that impulsivity that like really started to scare me badly. That was like, it was like emergency procedures. I was cutting away to get into inpatient. And then like ever since then, it's like I do EPs all the time because it's amazing how it's such a holistic problem. Because it's like, am I struggling with this because I drink myself to sleep? And then, I don't want to go to sleep because for whatever reasons. And then I wake up and I can out PT everybody, but I have these insecurities and I'm not eating well. So my sleep's all fucked and my body hurts. But if I go see PT and say something hurts, they might pull me from a team or I'm just going to suck. And so like, it's now you have this big ball of fuck and you haven't taken care of anything. And I think a lot of us look at like, oh, my knee hurts, I need knee surgery. No one gives you shit. But like, oh, bro, I saw you eat an IED really fucking hard. And now you don't want to go to like invisible wounds because of a TBI. So like that narrative is what I learned quickly. It's like, dude, no one is saying they went to inpatient. No one is saying that they're struggling with this stuff. Like, am I the only one that's pulling a milk jug out of the fridge and knocks something down and like, God damn it. Yeah. Like, that's not normal. And so it was a lot of this, man, was like really looking at myself like super, super real. And I don't think I could have done that for me, without being sober, because like as soon as you start introducing booze or whatever it is for anybody else, it's that numbing out. And empathy is a real thing. And I think I'm still. Go ahead.
Oh no, it's alcohol is a tricky one. Like I'm sober, I don't drink, and it's not because I'm lucky. I'm blessed. I turn to it as a way to deal with not being able to sleep, as a way to deal with anxiety, as a way to get out of my own, what I was feeling, not being able to name it. I didn't know anything about emotions until I got help. We have a base emotion of angry, happy, sad. That's it. I couldn't put a word to what I was feeling. So I drank. On the backside of it getting better, I realized, why do we drink? Why do so many of us drink? Why do we leave ourselves vulnerable to this enemy that's at the gate, which is alcohol? And I get it. If you don't have an issue with it, if you don't have any anxiety, depression, mental health issues, it's cool, man. Drink, have a beer with your friends. But here's my argument. We're all about health, and we're all about trying to find every single way that we could be more effective on the battlefield, at home, on a team. Do the data, crunch the numbers. Does alcohol bring you closer to the best warrior you could be, the best father, the best friend, or does it take away? How does it enhance your life? Just simply do that exercise. And if you choose to drink after that, cool. Then you made a choice on your own accord to drink. But I would argue and say that once you do the data, if you do exactly what I just said, you'll realize that alcohol brings nothing into the fight. It doesn't.
Nope.
And there's like, I'm a big advocate for medicinal marijuana, and there's a place for it.
Yes.
But at the same spectrum, there's no place for alcohol. There's no positive to it. So that's my biggest thing, because it's so readily available to us when we're in the fight, when we're sitting there dealing with all these dark demons. Well, I know it's okay to drink, so we lean into it.
Yes.
Like, going through your own journey, how's it been being able to walk away knowing that you don't need that anymore?
That's a really good question. I think it's something that's always going to be there. And I think I have to constantly remind myself of like, what am I giving up? Because like, I think I could like go have a beer at a barbecue? I think I really could, but it's that moderation is really hard.
Yeah.
It's 1, 2, 3, 4. And then like, what does happen when like the COA that I was planning, like didn't plan out, and I didn't have a backup. Like, so it's constantly reminding myself of like where I was before and what I could lose. And when I have the ability to like catch that before it blows up, like that's what's keeping me in the game. Cause like there's times like a lot of us, and this is where I'm at, like I'm all about like, gun rights, I love my Glock 19 that's all tricked out, but like there's no world I keep it in my car, because like I know that like if I get cut off in traffic, like one thing leads to another, and it's putting things in place that allow me to have like the right impulse control, and like I can admit that that's okay. I mean, and I try to really focus on like I statements instead of like general statements, because I really don't want to speak for like a community or anything like that. But like these are definitely like my realities, and it's you asked me about like Laurel Ridge, and then like since then, what have I learned? I think what I'm still learning and I still really struggle with is like two things can be true, and that's what I'm trying to work out. I know a narrative that I've been talking to a lot of my teammates about. I'm fortunate enough that I'm a former 18 Alpha that's still in the team chat with my old team. So like, I'm just like, whatever I did something right. Like, you're happy.
For those of you that don't understand, this means that this man kept his tribe after his time on a team, and that's that is a hard thing that we don't talk about. I mean, I put it out. I put a lot of memes out there. That's, I tend to think that I reel you in with the poop and dick jokes into the seriousness of the podcast. And there's a lot of jokes about officers, but you don't realize how difficult that is. You go through your entire junior officer career knowing that you want to go to selection, knowing you want to do this, and you do it. And you go through all these hurdles, all this pain, all this fucking atrocious fucking grinding to get on a team. And then you only get 2 years, maybe, if you're lucky, maybe. And then you're off to fucking staff world. And then if you get out, maybe you get added to the team chat. But being able to, and that's like, it sucks because officers are there just as often. They're doing the work that nobody wants to do, and they get shit on a lot. But I tell you this, if you're a great officer, you know it, because the guys still talk to you. You're still on the team thread. You're still, just your story, having individuals that reached out, then there's no closer bond than the warrant and team sergeant and captain, the tripod. And the fact that yours were there with you, that says a lot about the person you are, the Green Beret you are, and how tight that bond was. And and I know you probably reflect on that, but if you don't, just know that at the very end of the day, those individuals care so much about you. They're willing to be there for you in the middle of the worst. And that's a beautiful thing about having a team. And I know there's so many of us out there dealing with this stuff that, you don't have that. But I'm telling you, reach out to your friends. One of the things that will always get you through on the other side when you're dealing with these things is having that network, having that tribe, man. And I'm so glad you actually had that.
We were literally doing Father's Day texts on Sunday, like Happy Father's Day, people talking shit. Like, I'm sure you could think of like texts that were like popping off on that. But I was talking to my teammates about like something I felt like, August 2021, and we pulled out of Afghanistan. And when I reflected on that before inpatient, it was like so many feelings that came with that. To the best analogy I came up with so far is like I feel like at 36 years old I found out like Santa Claus wasn't real, and it was like what?
Yeah.
And I went from like my whole life, like how many times did you watch Band of Brothers, The Pacific? I recently watched Airmen, and you're
Bro.
like, dude, I'm a World War II vet. Like they hit the towers just like they did Pearl Harbor. We're clapping back. And then you wake up and you're like, holy fuck, dude, I'm a Vietnam vet. That's what it happened to me like that, dude. And that community, like, I don't think, like, if you're a part of that, like, talk about it, because, like, talking about it and getting those feelings out there and, like, just sharing, getting it off your chest, I think goes a long way. And so,
100%, man. I think one of the greatest blessings of this show is I was able to talk to individuals that were in the thick of helping our Afghan allies get out of there, like Lieutenant Colonel retired Scott Mann, and then being able to reach into the Vietnam era side of the house with John Stryker Meyer, Tilt, being able to have him on the show and reflect. And we're literally reliving that. I mean, we talk about generational trauma when it comes to, chronic stress and PTSD within our communities, but we don't talk about the trauma that we endured as service members in a specialized community. That stuff stays with us. Like now we're reliving that. Who's to say the next generation of Green Berets won't be revisiting us in the next forever war, asking us how we felt?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's that moral injury piece a lot of people don't talk about. And just like you were saying, instantly, my last tour was 2019 to 2020. And we knew, like, we're closing up shop. Like, nothing was said, but everything that was moving at the end of that tour, we're sitting there, like, thinking to ourselves, like, I remember looking at my team sergeant, and it's just like, dude, this is it. This is the last combat trip. And sure as shit, when we rotated out, COVID came in, and COVID shut all the operations. And that little bit of understanding of, like, as we're watching it all fall apart, we're like, holy shit, we were saying things were going to go bad and nobody listened. It's like, and then all the no trials, nobody was held accountable. We're just hearing all these hearings and people, but nobody was held accountable. And at the end of the day, like, as a warrant officer and you as an officer, like, we both understand intimately when something gets fucked up on an operation, you're going to be held accountable. But the same isn't being said for the individuals that run our military.
And it hurts. Like it hurts when it's just like, what was all that for? Like, wait, like time out, like real quick, like what what were we doing here? And like you talked about, like I remember my first deployment with the regular Army, like they were cutting MATVs in half because it was more expensive to ship them back to America. We were doing retrograde operations, war on terror was ending, and we're charging E4s that lost batteries to an emitter.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, hold on a second. And, you fast forward, it's 11 years later, man. So that, and then I think you just have to realize that, like, I think the point that the place where I'm getting to in life right now, and I'm not always doing a great job of it, but, progress, not perfection is.
That's right.
I can only control me. Like, it's the tale as old as time. Like, dude, I can't control my 3-year-old. Like at the end of the day, he's going to do what he wants to do. And like reminding myself constantly that like, I'm going to do the best I can. I think everybody else is trying to do the best they can. I'm going to tell myself that because it's very, very easy for me to talk into a negative circle very quickly.
Yep.
And the more I do it, it'll put me in a bad place. And so what I'm not saying is that there isn't a time, place, and space to do so, but it's back again to that accountability piece. Like I have my team thread. I have a lot of people I can reach out to right now. And again, it's that vulnerability and security thing. So like I have my cutaway pillow or whatever, I got my backup right now because like I need it.
Dude, You just mentioned something that so many veterans need to hear, and it's that negative echo chamber. Like, yes, we know that things aren't panning out the way we might want them. We might not like the way our current culture in the United States is. We might not like certain government elected officials, but at the end of the day, if you sit, especially in social media, if you sit and I'm not going to name names, but there's certain individuals that foment and create this constant negative feedback of just anger, 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 be broken, be rally around PTSD diagnosis, be angry, be disgruntled. It's like, why? None of it's going to help me. None of it's going to help you. If we sit in that space, we're not going out there trying to create a nonprofit. We sit in that space. We're not trying to promote a positive message of healing and overcoming our issues. No, we're just sitting there bitching and complaining and commenting on the same things over and over and over again. And it doesn't, I know it intimately because it was very, very attractive at first. Yeah, let's fucking constantly feed into this. At the end of the day, like, you're a dad. At the end of the day, like, I got things to do. I got bills to pay. I got chores. Like, I got things that I really want to do. And I don't have time to just sit there and be negative. But it's so attractive because there's that aspect of you're validating everything I'm saying. So of course I want to sit here in this chat room with you, or this Discord thread, or on this social media channel. And it's like, dude, it takes a lot of guts to like walk away from it. It takes a lot of guts to like sit there and be like, I want something better, man.
Yeah.
Like, I want to move on to your progress going into not only trying to get an education, but you went back to like one of the hardest schools to get your MBA, man. Like, we kind of glossed over that. I want to focus on that because like, that's not an easy thing, dude. Like, how did you make that decision? And like, what drove you towards that avenue?
That's it. So I did try to gloss over it because like, I don't know, like I was just like, yeah, so I went to business school. Like, oh
Yeah, just Wharton.
yeah, I mean, it's whatever. It was great. So when I was at seventh group, I think a lot of this. Or just in the military. I was going to say special. It's a lot of it is luck and timing.
Yeah.
And with where I was in my year group and how it lined up, I don't know if it's still around. There's a program that came out in 2015 called PBGSIP. It was performance-based grad school incentive program. So when I like I think there was like 19 branches in the Army. Each branch gives up like 2 names. RSOF is considered one of the branches because we have CA, PsyOps, etc. And branch called me and said, "Hey, you're the PBGSIP guy." Like, and I was like, "Oh shit!" Like, I didn't know about this. So I was thinking about it. I was also like being told by the 7th Group commander that I was going to be General Brennan's aide, and I did not want to do that. Like, nothing against General Brennan. I heard like he's awesome, but like I didn't want to be a general's aide. That sounded horrible. Yeah. I told him that. And so I immediately like took the GRE, put a resume together, applied to Wharton, and I like got in. And one of the things I wrote about was and I wasn't joking. I wrote my paper on how I was going to be arrogant Dan. I was going to be chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff, and that Wharton's tools was going to help me, and I was going to take their name for when I did it. And like they're like, this guy, yeah, man, we'll accept him. And then 2024, I mentored. But I mean, dude, I drank the Kool-Aid. I was in, man. I loved it. And it was a year for me to like take a knee for 2 years and like spend family time and go to business school. And COVID popped off, and you're not normally home. And I'm home with a 2-year-old, and my wife is pregnant. And again, like undiagnosed, untreated PTSD. You can imagine what this is like. She does not have a support system. And that left, and shortly after, like everything crumbled away. I'm in Philadelphia at a school where like it's not always a homogenous, network. And like I tried, man, like I was even the Vets Club president. Like I was like in it with my co-president. Adam, my buddy Adam was the other co-president. Like I was, and you can't. I learned that the things that got me to where I am now are not necessarily the things that are going to get me to the next level. And I didn't figure that out. And I crashed and burned really hard because I was trying to do the same things and it wasn't working.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a huge load. I mean, business school is a whole different animal. And it'd be taking all that on while you're going through so much. It's commendable, man. Like it's white knuckling sobriety.
Yes.
That's what
and it might be commendable, but like in retrospect, like I think I caused myself a lot of pain that I could have avoided.
Yeah.
So like, anybody suffering in silence, man, like find a battle buddy, because I would not be here today if I didn't have some strong battle buddies that like kept bumping my compass. And I'm very thankful for those individuals.
Yeah. Yeah. When it comes to peer support, we don't talk about it and we don't promote it enough, but dude, just like any other military school, just like any other time in your service, you've leaned on your friends. You have to be able to do that. You have to be able to look at the people to your left and your right and be vulnerable enough to say, I need help. I just need a joke. I need a laugh. I need somebody to just check on me. We do it throughout. I mean, I remember having people you checked in on through SUT, like just friends you leaned on a little bit when things suck.
Yeah.
Then you do it in sniper school. You do it in free fall. But then when we get on the outside, we kind of forget about all the things that helped us. It's like, if you're listening and you're struggling, maybe you're not ready to talk to a counselor. Maybe you're not ready to fully divulge and be open and vulnerable with somebody. But at least reach out to your friend. Reach out to that one person that knows you or a family member. Like, you can't deal with this. That's why the tagline of the show is we get through this together. None of us are meant to be by ourselves. We tend to think that way. We think we're all these freaking awesome, soft professionals. We don't need anybody. Truth is, human beings thrive on connection, being able to talk. So if you're out there struggling, please just reach out to a friend through a text or a phone call. I'm telling you, it'll help vet some of the things. And when you're ready, that's like connective tissue to get you ready to talk to an individual. Like, I know that's how it helped me. Like, when I first started, like, finally understanding that the tremors were getting longer and louder, like, started venting to one friend and then two friends. We kept each other afloat for a little bit, but then eventually you need that professional care. And by that time, I was more than ready. And by the time I got to Laurel Ridge, then it was like the floodgates were ready to open.
Yep. I'm a man of analogies. Like, dude, the whole time you were talking, I'm like, yeah, dude, like Ranger School, like no one is pulling security by themselves because like you're gonna sleep. And even if like battle buddy, you guys keep each other for a little bit, but like you do need that professional help, or like a lot of us do. And I think a reminder I'd like for, again, for the people listening, for everybody, like, I think a lot of us like, well, I tried therapy. It didn't work. It's all right. Like, it is like, pick your analogy. It's like picking a personal trainer. If you're like, yeah, man, like I'm trying to get buff and my bench and the dude's like making you do squats and you're cutting. It's like, dude, you're not listening. Just like you would anything else. And so I highly encourage individuals, try it. If it doesn't work, try somebody else, because like I've gone through, like, I think I went through like 7 therapists before I found the one I have now. And I've been with her for 2 years. Well, almost 2 years. It'll be 2 years this July.
Yeah.
And we're doing a lot. It's, I recently did, it was 10 weeks, clinical trials, 10 90-minute sessions of the impact of killing.
Nice.
And man, it was opened up a lot for me to talk about, which, like the stuff that we struggle with, the 2 things that can be true. And like, that's why it's like, I didn't just read a book. Like, this all like came from like, the last 2 years of therapy getting me to where like I am today.
That's the beauty of it. Whether you want to admit it or not, look, I used to be an 18 Bravo. Before I became a warrant, I was an 18 Bravo. So I know all the dumb Bravo jokes. Every Green Beret, within every Green Beret, there is somebody that wants to know more. You want to find information. When you get on your journey towards mental health and getting better, start reading about all the things that can help you. Like, there's so many different modalities out there that if I didn't take an active participation in my own healing and my own journey, would never have known to ask for it. Like, that's just the reality. All these things are things we can overcome. We shouldn't go into a mental health treatment center or to a professional and hear a diagnosis and think, oh my God, my life's over. this is going to be my identity forever. Like, no, it's not. All these things, anxiety, depression, PTSD, these are all things that we can learn, understand, and then combat and overcome. It takes work. It takes being dedicated and wanting to have a better life. Look, it's not going to be easy, but none of the greatest things in life are easy. It all comes with challenges, like being a dad. How hard is that?
It's one of the hardest things. Like, I mean, it's a constant, like, dude, it's constant. Like,
but it's pretty freaking awesome, right?
It's the most rewarding thing. It's so rewarding. It's both. Like, it's both.
Yeah. and that's mental health in a nutshell. Like, I'd rather wake up and I'd rather face these challenges and have to go do those long pauses and breathing exercises and having to go do mindfulness and having to realize that I need to step back and look at the complete picture than going back to living my life where I just think that I'm supposed to always be angry, bitter, and broken. Like, fuck that. We're supposed to be better. Like, in this part of your life, Dan, I want to ask you, now that you have the tools, now that you have the resources, how does it feel to finally have like that understanding that, okay, I'm not broken. I'm not like, I have answers. I can move forward through this.
It gives me a fuck ton of hope. Like, hope. One word answer, man. Hope. Like,
yeah.
Because dude, like, when you literally talk about being at the bottom, and that's something I try to tell people. Like, dude, trauma is trauma. And it's relative. Like, I understand we can get on this. Oh, well, at the end of the day, like, the worst day of your life was the worst day of your life.
Yes,
the worst day of my life was the worst day of my life, and you can't change that. Like, that is very important to understand. So for me, when I look at where I was, and now that I understand a lot of things, I can give myself grace. I can forgive myself, which has allowed me to like forgive other people. Because like for a long time, it was me being so angry at myself and being angry at other people, to where I'm able to cope with things a lot better. And so it's just that constant reminder of seeing the progress, and it hope. It gives me hope. I feel like I can give others hope. And something I want to jump on before it like slips out of my brain, because you know how these things just like, when you were talking about other modalities, like very similar to what you're doing with your podcast, like that's what Kevin and I are trying to do with Renewed Heights, is when we do get each other together, we can share about like stellate ganglion block injections and how helpful they can be for some people. For me, I'm one of the people that have benefited specifically from the Donovan and Banks Foundation, who has paid for me to get, and then I've told other people about it, and I push them. So like, we're sitting around after a skydive, and then we start learning about like MERT. I forget what the acronym MERT stands for, but it pulls your brain with magnets. With my buddy Kevin, he's friends with people in Arizona and so like, a lot of this, just like you said, it's like, well, I didn't even know that was a thing. Like, okay, well, Tom Satterley and Jen Satterley do the All Secure Foundation, and you probably read the book, Arsenal of Hope. Like, I recommend that book to my mom, my brother, my sister, my girlfriend. Like, it is that education piece. And I think when other individuals hear guys like me and you talking about it, and what's this SGB thing, or what's Donovan and Bank Foundation, what is this book Arsenal of Hope, what's the All Secure Foundation, what's Laurel Ridge, it puts it out there. And so that's a lot of what I'm trying to do right now, because again, whatever the reason is, whatever I'm working through, I have a desperate need to put good energy out there. Doesn't matter why. It doesn't matter if I'm trying to like outdo the bad shit, because I'm learning that like when you do good stuff, it feels really good. Yeah. And like, that's a good feeling. And like, you'll notice that like the more you do it, people will see it, the good energy you're putting out. I literally think that's why we're talking today. Like, Renewed Heights Head has raised $0. We're not there yet. And like, I'm on your podcast talking about like the things that are coming next, because I'm trying to put as much good energy out there, and I know you are too. So like,
well, Dan, I can tell you right now, this is, and like I said, this is an experiment that will run, for the rest of my life. That's it. Like, I'm not walking away from this endeavor, this project. But one thing I've realized by bringing individuals such as yourself, when we go through the hardest, most challenging aspect of our lives, and we come out of it a better human being, a better man, the leader and the green beret within us doesn't just want to walk off. No, we're going to go back and we're going to get as many guys through this as possible. And that's the beauty of healing and being on the road to recovery and staying on that journey, is you want to bring others back from the void.
Yep.
And that's where we get people that create nonprofits. We get people that create these amazing endeavors, and they're not doing it because, yeah, I want to be rich. No, we're doing it because the green beret inside of us know that it's important to go through and bring as many brothers back from the void. And that's the beauty of this. It's I've seen it. There's so many nonprofits that are kicking ass because it's one person was brave enough to stand up and say, I'm going to get help. And through your endeavors, going into the unknown and finding that courage to, rescue yourself. Because you can't do it for your wife. You can't do it for your kids. You can't do it for your best friends. At the end of the day, you have to go through this journey for yourself. You have to do it for you. That's the only way that you're going to really dig in and fucking address these issues. You want to do it for you because you know you deserve it. And that's why your nonprofit is going to make such awesome waves, because it's purpose driven. Like, understanding that from the very beginning is like, oh shit, this man's gone through it and he knows how this can help someone. So let's dig into this before we run out of time, man. Renewed Heights. How did this thing kick off?
I am in a men's group, and we meet monthly, and at the beginning of the year we came up with a mantra, and my mantra just, is, I think, no more than 3 words, and I was bouncing around. I came up with like renewed heights ahead. And then I got put in touch with my now co-founder, Kevin, who is 18 Charlie, who got out from first group and became a professional skydiver. And a Wharton friend was like, you two need to talk like right now.
Nice.
And I just shared with him like, hey man, here's what I was thinking. He's like, dude, this is what I was thinking. Because like you mentioned before, skydiving was so beneficial for me, getting into that point of being present to where like, dude, when that green light turns on and you jump out, I mean, dude, I'm there. And I was telling my aunt, who has been battling cancer for like 30 years, and she goes, that's what equestrian therapy is. I'm like, holy shit. Like, Kevin, what do you think? Like, Kevin has a full-time job. I'm a rigger. Like, that is where I get my supplemental income on top of being retired. Like, I'm fortunate enough to where I have a pension. And the way I live my life, I'm able to do this where every single penny, all the proceeds go directly to the nonprofit right now. And if we do eventually get to a point where like I need to pay an executive director, like we'll cross that bridge when we get there. And we started talking about like, dude, we could get this, like getting people to get through their A license. Like, what if there's people that are already in the sport? Okay. Like putting them through canopy courses. And it's, well, like, let's not just like reserve this for veterans. Why not open this to first responders? Because any skydivers out there, you'll notice I feel that a lot of us all struggle with, like, we have some type of trauma and our outlet is skydiving. So like there's already something there. So you start getting like first responders, veterans in this community. So now I want to go to Skydive Orange, which is my home drop zone just south of DC. Dude, I have like 10 vets. I can be like, hey, I'm going to be there. And then like they start hearing about what we're talking about. Now we're talking about renewed heights ahead. And it's like, oh man, this is dope. And so it's community, which is super important. That accountability piece, doing something that is healthy, away. It's an escape, and you're doing it with a group of people, a conduit that allows you, like, there are people that I'm going to have come through renewed heights ahead, and discretion is super important to me. I've put them in touch with Donovan and Banks for help because like I don't have the funds yet to put them through renewed heights ahead. And I'm working with my drop zone. So like, if you do go to our websites, renewedheights.org, the president of Skydive Orange, Monica, is helping with the website for free. She's doing it pro bono because like the last year and a half that I've been like doing extra stuff at the drop zone, like to get to know people, spend time, help out when I can. They're like, Dan, we would love to help out with what you're doing. Let's figure out a way. So like, I have that here, as well as my co-president, former professional skydiver, lives in Arizona. I mean, Skydive Arizona is like the Mecca. And
Yeah, it is.
well, I went out there to visit my buddy Kevin, and like I barely knew, I'm new to the sport. I find out this guy, Johnny Gunn, 18,000 jumps, recently retired pro skydiver. He zipped out to Skydive Arizona to do one jump with me. Didn't have time to pack his parachute and left. I felt like the most special kid in the whole world. But this all was because of my buddy Kevin. And so talking about this throughout the sport, veterans, non-veterans, people are like, dude, you have to do this, to the point where I don't want to spend too much time on how Fran Boudet and I became like friends, but he had recently reached out to me. He wanted to talk to my dad. And I'm like, all right, okay. Like, yeah, I'll put you in touch with my dad. This is like strange. But him and I have had a relationship where he heard about what happened to me. He heard about me going to Laurel Ridge. And Fran Boudet, for those of y'all who don't know, is, 3-star retired former USASOC commander. And I asked him if he would be on the advisory board. And his bandwidth is about this big. And he said he needed to talk to his wife about it. And he said yes. And so I feel like maybe it's the passion behind my voice and like how I'm seeing this. But there is something here, and there's a lot of people jumping on board. And I have, kind of had to put a pin in it right now. This summer, I am off. I'm not doing anything but being a full-time dad from May 26th to July 26th. There's nothing on the calendar. And then Renewed Heights Ahead is going to pick up with some wind behind us, and we're going to be pumping guys and girls through. So
absolutely. It sure as hell will. And if you're listening right now, head on over to the episode description. I'll pause, scroll down. You'll see the link right there. Head on over there, donate, figure out how you can get involved, get out there and start living your life. The world doesn't start once you retire. The world's happening around you right now. And one of the greatest things you can do while you're still in is figure out how you can help people who are of service to others. And that's why I always say, try to get involved with a nonprofit. If it's just donating a little bit of money on the side, or figure out how you can help with web design, with throwing out fundraisers. One of the greatest things about Instagram is people get behind these causes and they raise money doing the dumbest things with memes. So I know that the community's out there. So if you're a soft guy looking for a way to connect with a nonprofit that's from our community, hit up Dan. Dan, how can people get a hold of you right now?
So if you go to our website, renewedheights.org, that's probably the best way. There's a contact us button. And like Denny said, if you want to just give back, like financially, obviously we would appreciate that. But I know that I'm not always in a place to be just like throwing out money. So if you're in the area or there's a way that you think you can help out, not only are we a nonprofit, but now that we have 501c3 status, if you want to give us your time, and your time is, for an example, $10 an hour, you can provide me with a bill and I provide you with an invoice that's a taxable write-off. And like that is something like, me being a rigger, other riggers that are at the drop zone, people that are like, oh, I'm an AFF instructor, I'll give you my time. And I'd say that, or Dan at renewedheights.org. That is my email. I don't know if you want to drop that in there, but please do. Like, it is not a secret. And, there's going to be more to come. We have some of the advisory board members. If you're a skydiver, Kurt and Jeannie Bartholomew, they're two of our board members, the most decorated canopy pilot of all time. Kurt, Johnny Gunn, multiple world records. He's on our advisory board. If you have things that you think could help, like other organizations, I know Jump for Valor is a skydiving nonprofit that mainly, as far as I know, they only do tandem for veterans that potentially can't jump. Word of mouth, spread the word. And I'd say that's the best way right now. We are working on, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and those will be out shortly.
Oh, yeah, man. Well, as soon as you get those channels up, let me know, and I'll update this episode description with all those links, and then I'll shoot you collaborations. And every time I release an episode, it's a huge social media campaign, try to rotate reels and stories of that episode for like at least 3 or 4 days. So if you guys are listening and you're tired of seeing my stories, well, then share us with your friends. Remember, like, share, and subscribe. It goes for us too. So send that to all your friends. That way we can promote great nonprofits like Renewed Heights. Dan, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being vulnerable enough to share your insight and your journey. And I think we need an episode 2, man, because I want to dive into more in your personal. I don't think we ever touched in, how you became a Green Beret. And I think that's perfect to like go all the way back, do a second part. Dan, again, please continue your mission and keep us informed, man, because this is 100%. Awesome.
And it would be an absolute privilege to come back and be on your podcast. It was right after Laurel Ridge. I stayed along, in contact with some of the guys from that tribe. And somebody's like, dude, you have to listen to this podcast specifically on operator syndrome. And that is the first podcast I ever listened on operator syndrome was your podcast. And
hell yeah.
Yeah. Yes. So like when I texted you about somebody who was like, oh, like listen to this podcast, I was like,
yeah,
I already know the podcast. Like already knew about it. So it'd be an absolute privilege to be back on here and
hell yeah,
do this again.
Yeah, dude, for sure. And I'd like to close it off like we close it off every morning and every evening at Laurel Ridge with a loud and thunderous ride. Thank you so much for being here, man. To all you listening, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you all next time. Till then, please take care of each other, especially the 18 Bravos and the 18 Alphas that need the most help.